Thank you so much for joining us for our Business Sense Bootcamp with Comerica. My name is Lamar Heistek. I'm president of Asian Inc. Been with Asian Inc. for 6 years and started as our program development officer, became the director of our San Francisco Minority Business Center, operated with the United States Department of Commerce Minority Business Development Agency. And now, 6 years later, I'm leading the organization. I'm very honored to do so, especially during this very difficult time. Joined with us are a number of folks who have been very supportive of our work, namely Comerica Bank. Comerica has had a long-standing relationship with Asian Inc., and Asian Inc. has been honored to work with Comerica for many years. We had the pleasure of working with Mr. Donald Kinsey, who has retired, moved on, but we're pleased to work with David Betancourt, with Comerica, as well as Sonia Track. And we're also joined here by Morgan Rector, the California Market President. But before we get started, I just want to give you a little bit of background. This is a Business Sense Bootcamp with Comerica. They are supportive of delivering integral business information to small businesses and emergency businesses during this very difficult time. So we're saying that this is going to help get businesses past COVID-19, because a lot of the information is probably information that is useful to know even before you start a business. But when you have a business in the middle of a very difficult situation such as this pandemic, it's helpful to revisit that information, to check in with you all, with our minority business clients and our small business clients and folks who want to get this information again and who want to get new information. It's helpful for us to check in this way. So we're doing this as a webinar. We may open this up as a Zoom meeting with all the talking heads, but right now you just have us. And you have on our screen here a slide showing our first installment, which is identifying common COVID-19 pain points. And we want you to use the chat function at the bottom of the screen to enter any points that you might want to have addressed, maybe not necessarily today, but in future installments of the boot camp. As you see, we have all the Tuesdays in July. We have next week, we'd like to talk about capital post-PPP, but you know that the Paycheck Protection Program has actually been given a new lease on life. Again, it's going to be extended through August 8th. So folks who haven't had a chance to access the program still have that chance through the beginning of August. July 21st, we'd like to talk about small business credit and small business credit scores. What is your small business credit score? And on the last Tuesday of July, we'd like to talk about taking control of your small business reputation. What are people and what are others saying about you? We're going to ask Violet to advance to the next slide. And we'd like to have our welcoming remarks from Mr. Morgan Rector, California Market President with Comerica Bank. Now, this is the only presenter of a Zoom webinar or a Zoom meeting who has an IMDb page. He has been involved in the in financing the entertainment industry. He's done wealth management, and he's been based in Southern California. He's a California born and bred leader of Comerica. Now he's leading the California market. So I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Morgan Rector. Morgan?
Yeah, thanks for that. And I think your comments were just absolutely spot on in terms of where we are today. At Comerica, it's really part of our culture and mission to see ourselves as an important part of the communities we serve, and that those communities are really an important part of us. There are neighbors, our relatives, our classmates, our colleagues, our friends. With everything going on right now, whether it's a renewed emphasis on social justice or the pandemic, it reminds us of how connected we all are. And noted that you made a couple of comments on the PPP program at Comerica. We made over, I think, 14,000 PPP loans for over $4 billion. And I think at the end of the day, any client that we had that was looking for a PPP loan, we were able to process it and get it into the SBA. So really monumental effort on our part, but really happy to be part of what amounted to a great solution for small business, government, and the financial industry. with that said, Comerica is obviously a proud sponsor of Asia Inc., and we want to continue to deliver on our promise of reinvesting in the communities we serve, including small business community in crucial times like these when it's so badly needed. We've been in business for 170 years, and being a consistent and reliable partner over that period of time is central to our mission. And with partners like Asia Inc., we're able to provide resources to help our communities thrive and create economic opportunity, which is a positive for all of us. So thank you so much for allowing us to be part of this, and I'll send it back to you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Morgan. We appreciate your support and your joining us. It means a lot to us. We have the occasion to work with a number of lending institutions, sources of business capital. I can say sincerely, I've said it to David Betancourt, who's here with us. I've said it to Sonia Track, who's also here with us. I've said it to Mr. Don Kinsey, that it's really an honor to work with an institution that really is at the grassroots. And it's, you know, you pick up the phone and call, that kind of relationship. That's very refreshing in these times. So thank you for those remarks.
Yeah, thank you.
We'd like to remind folks who've joined us for this webinar on identifying common COVID-19 pain points. We have Numbia Aziz. We also have Tanya Momi. They're two business owners, and I'll be asking them about their business situations. And maybe I didn't feel so comfortable saying to everyone, okay, show your faces, tell us your story, because I didn't want people who felt private about their situations to have to advertise that in this kind of setting. But we did have folks who were interested in sharing a little bit about their business and about their stories, and I wanted to invite them to do so. But I also have Rocio Molina. She's one of our business development specialists at our Minority Business Center, or MBDA Business Center, which is based in San Jose. But as you know, you can deliver services virtually throughout the country. So the brick and mortar center has been in San Jose, still is in San Jose. But I don't know, Rocio, have you been to back to the center since we've started this whole shelter in place? How many times have you been back to the office? Probably not at all. And I don't know if I could hear Rocio.
Oh, I honestly have not been back since March. I started getting a couple of requests for in-person meetings, but I think we've done such a good job of integrating online tools that so far it has not been necessary. But I know some of my colleagues have had a couple of in-person meetings, but mostly we've been able to do things virtually.
Okay. Violet, can you advance to the next slide, please? And then we'll want to talk a little bit about this question, and then we'll talk with Numbia and Tanya. And this is the way we're going to get folks to provide some of their thoughts and without showing their faces and without, you know, being totally out there. But we're glad to have you, Numbia and Tanya. The question that we have for folks is, which COVID-19 related challenges have you overcome? And which are you still trying to overcome? We're asking folks they can email us at bizsensebootcamp@asianinc.org. They can do it in the chat, however they want to be, to share their story or to share their thoughts and to share what they'd like to have other people know. I want to emphasize that you share only as much as you would like. But we have, as I said again, Numbia and Tanya. So I'd like to ask Numbia, if you can unmute yourself and just share about your story. And maybe there are things that you share with us that other folks can identify with and give a thumbs up to and say that I'm experiencing that too. So Numbia.
All right. Well, hi, Lamar, and thank you everybody for having me. And I am a disease prevention specialist specializing in men over 50. So I'm a men's wellness coach. And so I fall under stage 4 under the personal care services. And I've been closed since March. I have 2 locations in Santa Clara County and Alameda County. And the hardest thing has been with some of my clients, because most of my services has always been in person. So not necessarily a virtual, because I do somatic therapy, which is that I lay hands on people, right, at times, or so I can do virtual consulting. But some services, when it comes to, you know, stretch therapy, you know, those type of things, physical therapy, those services, those are in-person services. So I've been closed, of course, since since March, and I've been successful, thankfully, in preparation. So some of that came, the system with Asian Inc. I was able to, as far as before the COVID-19 even hit, I've been partnering, so Asian Inc. has been a good, good team with that. So I've applied for the PPP, funds, and people that I've known, I've been successful, to work with other banks, and it's been good, So I don't have any complaints now because I've been ahead of the game, resourceful, So I'm on that end, and the only struggle has been when can I get back to work? I was behind in rent, of course, for both locations, your home, so that's been a struggle. But over the time, I've been able to really have a good communication with the landlords. So that's been good, being ahead of the game with that. So I'm
Thank you
looking
so much.
forward to open back up.
Yeah, I appreciate that you're sharing that. And I see that Porter Wong is on as an attendee, and I appreciate that Porter has been so helpful to you, and he's been a great extension of Asian Inc., of our MBDA Business Center. And truly, you have been a great story of perseverance, and you're still persevering, and you're going to come out on top when all is said and done. So thank you so much for sharing that. Now we have Tanya Momia as well. If Tanya, can you unmute yourself and share, what have you been able to overcome? What are you still trying to overcome? What are some of your experiences that you think could be helpful for others to hear?
Thank you so much to Porter and Agent Inc. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm so glad. First time I'm being get to express my what I haven't overcome anything. I'm still struggling. So I've been in business in Mountain View since 1988 in a salon business, and I'm the only one who left as a original salon in Mountain View. So when we go to school, we learn bones, muscle, disorder, disease, chemicals, and we know how to sanitize. So I was really surprised that salons were closed. I didn't understand why they closed the salon, because we, by appointment only, we disinfect, we clean, we know our rules. This is what state board requires us to do, and our rules are right. When you walk in, we work with that. And so luckily, my salon is a full service salon in Mountain View, California, off Miramonte and Cuesta. Is called Spoil Me Salon. We have over 10 people who are renters. So my renter's been paying my rent, and I'm up to date till this month, and my shopping center is owned by a big corporation. So they made sure that we don't ask for anything. We pay our rent, we have a lease, we do not ask for help, go ask somewhere else. So I applied every loan, I did not receive anything. I am getting EDD, I'm getting a check every couple of weeks, but we are suffering. If we cannot make it another month or two, we will be shutting down our salon. And I'm so fortunate, I'm so blessed for my team to pay their rent on time. We paid everything on time to the shopping center, which is a big, big corporation, as I said. So where to go, what to do at this point now, I'm asking for help. Please open the salons. We are not, we do not spread germs, and we know how we killed every germ in our salon. Everything's sanitized, everything's clean. We took our waiting area. We are just like a little small medical, facility. That's how we have become. So I'm repeating myself over and over. Salons are not like when Governor Newsom said that the COVID came from a nail salon. I was shocked. I'm a manicurist since 1988 in Mountain View, and I couldn't believe it. And why the news keeps saying the salons are open. We are not even close to open. They tell you we're going to be open on July 13th, and state shut us. We are not allowed to open. And it's so sad that this is people in senior homes, people elderly, they cannot cut their own toenails, they cannot groom themselves. This is really, I think it's getting worse. Instead of solving a problem, I think they created a bigger problem. Well, that's what
I hear, and Asian Inc. has heard similar stories, because a great deal of the folks we've assisted have been single owner small businesses, single employee, sole proprietorships. So really the smallest of the small businesses and even pre-business entrepreneurs we've been assisting. And a lot of the stories we've been helping and hearing have been the ones that you've been telling, Tanya, Numbia. And I think I should also remind folks of the leadership of Tony Tang, the MBDA Business Center Director, based in San Jose, but really doing a lot of great work throughout the greater San Francisco Bay Area. I saw a comment in the chat from Mr. Andrew Ha, and he says he wants to move to Vegas within a year or two to open up a pop-up museum. And should he go about researching real estate as he plans on doing a road trip to Las Vegas? Now, Andrew, this is a great case that we can talk with you offline about, and the email address, and I believe we have your email address as well, but our email address is bizsensebootcamp@asianinc.org. For this particular series, we can connect you with our MBDA Business Center in San Jose. We also have an MBDA project in the Central Valley led by David Mendoza. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted, so we want to make sure that the benefit of this conversation can be had by others who are not in attendance. And we know that there are other folks who can certainly benefit from the information. But thank you, Tanya, again for sharing. Thank you, Numbia. I want to move to share just a quick video. And I'll be sharing a few videos because I don't want us to be looking at a slide so much. I mean, I haven't moved the slide. We haven't advanced this slide in particular. But we want to show videos and then explain some of those videos. And we want to focus on what can be common, what can be a common pain point. So let's take a look at this quick video, and then we'll go into that. We'll look at another video, and then we'll do some discussion about that. Let me see if I can get this to work. Continue, and let's see here. Give me just a second. Okay, so you should see this video here on the screen with two gentlemen. I'm going to enlarge it. And let me do something real quick. Share computer sound, that might help.
Is, you know, when I think about entrepreneurship, I think about, you know, certain words that are often thrown around, and anyone that's been in this for even a couple months should be hearing words like, you know, pivot, creativity, you know, figuring out real pain points and stuff like that. And so it shouldn't be shocking to people that these are the things that you have to go through, right? And, you know, the first thing I said was, you know, constantly go through a bunch of challenges, because these are, that's what entrepreneurship is. And someone asked me recently, like, what do you think about all this? And I was like, well, I mean, when I'm thinking about truly like the innovation side of it or the entrepreneurship side of it, I'm thinking about like, okay, like what are the nastiest scenarios that like someone goes through right now? Right. And so many of us that are listening to this are having to stay home more than not. And when we do go out, we're more cognizant of when we have to touch something that might have been touched by something else, right? And so, you know, putting a credit card into a machine, right? Opening potentially a door, and then signing something, right? And so are those the next three things that like fully get automated? You know, I think smartphones being, you know, 12, 15 years old, we're getting closer to those things being the payment piece of that. But there's a lot of businesses out there, like from a to-go or a delivery standpoint, that use the phone, that the delivery driver then says, oh, sign this on the phone. Right. Well, that's not sanitary. That's not clean. That's kind of disgusting if you really think about it. And so if I were in a business from an innovation, hardware, software perspective at this point, like those would be the challenges that I would be thinking about and saying, hey, like, how could I start building something like this, having conversations with these vendors, these businesses that are going through this, to be like, look, I appreciate that your delivery system is using cell phones, but the problem is I don't want to touch that other person's cell phone that's been wherever it's been,
And that's the part that's concerns me. I mean, it doesn't necessarily scare me, but it concerns me in the sense of if there's two choices that people have. You can sit on the couch, watch the news, and become really, really depressed. Or you can look at the situation for what it is, and there's so much opportunity with chaos or whatever you want to call what's going on right now. There's so much opportunity that you can take advantage of right now. So many new problems that need to be solved. Or even someone like, as you and I both know, I'm a big fan of Tesla, but Tesla is totally retooling their the manufacturing plant right now so that they can optimize so when they go back online, they can produce better, faster cars in terms of a production standpoint. So take this time now, think about what it is that you always wanted to do, ways that you always wanted to do things better, and take advantage of this downtime now so that when things actually go back to whatever that new normal is, you can hit the ground running.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to show that because, you know, it's just two guys talking with each other about the current situation, but I wanted to see whether, Rocio, you felt like that discussion or that was applicable to a lot of the people you've been helping, or if there were things there that you think, yeah, that's what a lot of our folks are dealing with, the ones that, you know, you've been helping, the ones that we've been helping through Asian Inc. I think, and you're on mute.
I think definitely the call to innovation is something that everyone is feeling, and definitely the call to change how you project, you know, your business model for the next few months or for the next year, because, you know, we don't know what the new normal is. So I'm definitely having conversations with clients about, you know, we can't plan for things to go back to normal in a month or in 2 months or in 3 months. So what we should be doing is planning for things, you know, where we are now and trying to project that out. And if that means we have to make changes, then that's what that means. If we have to adjust budgets and P&Ls, then that's what that means. But I think maintaining a realistic perspective of where we are and what we have to deal with is something that I'm definitely having a lot of conversations about. And it's interesting because so much of it has become a little bit of case management, like listening to people's stories and trying to figure out, you know, what can we adjust to make this work for you.
That's right. Now I know we have David Betancourt here. We've worked closely with David and with Sonia Track at Comerica. I would invite you, David, as well, to add to other pain points that you've been hearing from folks besides what our business owners and what the gentleman in the video shared. What might you be hearing about and you think that might be applicable as we do this? You know, that we call it a boot camp. I'm not a military man, but we're doing this, you know, 4 Tuesdays in July kind of thing, and we have some preset topics, but I put an asterisk on the flyer because those topics can change based on what people really need and want to hear about. If there are things that they'd rather hear more about than others, then I'm happy to hear that. So, but David, do you want to add your comments or any things that you've been hearing?
Yes, thank you, Lamar, and thank you everyone else who's joining today. I think the big challenge right now is just really uncertainty. You know, even with, I mean, for small businesses, capital is probably the main thing. But even when you're planning ahead of, okay, you get your PPP and you're trying to plan ahead of how you're going to use it, how you're going to make sure that it lasts you for a certain amount of time. But then at the same time, there's no telling when we're going to be able to get back to that new normal, whatever that normal is going to look like. So I think, you know, just from what I've been seeing out there is, you know, it's just really not knowing what's going to happen, and then having resources like Asian Inc. who can help, you know, offer a helping hand, are just, these are the types of resources that we need to fall back on that are helping our small businesses survive right now. And then just us as consumers, you know, we need to make sure that we're doing our part as well, to make sure we're supporting our small businesses. And make sure that, you know, when next time we go shopping or we go out and get some food or whatever it may be, you know, try to support a small business. And, you know, another direction that I see businesses kind of pivoting as they try to adjust to everything is contracting, which can be, it can be something that's very foreign to some businesses, but at the same time, it's another way to really pivot your services in the way that you operate, because, you're not able to serve the same amount of customers that you once were. Even if, if you're a restaurant and you're doing takeout, you're still not making the same sales that you once were. So just finding those opportunities elsewhere to still making sure that you're bringing in some type of additional revenue to maintain, at least, keep your doors open and whatever staff you can keep on hand. But yeah, I mean, aside from capital, I think just the main thing is uncertainty and making sure that we have resources that are helping our small businesses adapt to those different changing policies and regulations.
I appreciate that. I think, and Rocio has something to add. Go ahead, Rocio.
Yeah, and I think to speak to that uncertainty, I think that, a lot of my clients, I get a lot of panicked phone calls where, they want to talk about their specific situation. But I realize that they don't realize that they're kind of all in the same boat, or that we're all pretty much in the same boat of uncertainty. Like, no one knows what's going to happen. No one really understands how the finances are going to work out 100%. Not even the SBA most of the time understands 100% how they're going to launch everything. So I think a lot of my conversations have also ended up being just reassuring people that, you will know when we know. And that's kind of the benefit of having us play intermediary a lot of the time, is that, maybe you want to take a break, maybe our clients want to take a break for the day and not be worried about their business, but they can at least know that we're still making phone calls to the SBA. We're still hearing from clients and trying to collect as much information about all of the processes as possible. So there's a lot of uncertainty for everyone, but I think that here at least we're a little bit of a team where we're all trying to patch it together to create the biggest picture for our clients.
I appreciate that. The theme here: uncertainty, pain, obstacles, barriers. Nubia has shared with us hers, Tanya as well. There are a lot of stories that we can delve into, but I think one thing that we've heard in common with other folks, and I'm trying to keep this more informal because I think I'm trying to engender this sense of trust that we can talk with one another. And when we open it up as a Zoom thing with, all the faces, and I think it would be helpful to have that level of trust in us that we can provide those services that Rocio and the Porter and Tony are delivering. The one thing that I've been hearing a lot is about cash flow, and namely, if I can ask Violet to go ahead and share the slide, the next slide, is the idea of how, you have existing expenses, you had a base of revenue that has eroded. I mean, that's been the case for most everyone, except if you're selling, I guess, PPE. I guess if you've been selling PPE, you've done pretty well lately. But for most of us, 99% of the businesses, really, that's this idea of how do I deal with what I owe and how do I deal with what is owed to me. And I could say that cuts across whether you're for-profit, non-profit, whether you're selling inventory, whether you're selling services, and we have two service providers here on the panel here. But is that something I'd like for us to take a look at managing cash flow, accounts payable and accounts receivable, namely. Now, cash flow is more than just what people owe you and what you owe others. There's operating revenue and things like that. But this call isn't designed to, I can't help a salon earn more operating revenue. That's probably someone in that industry could probably assist with that in a more detailed way. But what we can look at here and start to look at today is how we deal with what is owed to you and what you owe other people. Okay, so if that's okay, if we could just delve into this, and we don't have to take the whole hour here. We blocked out the idea of having this be 11 to 12 is that we're not going to get it up into people's lunch hour. I mean, a lot of things have changed about our world because of the pandemic, but we're going to have lunch at noon. So I don't want to impinge on that. So if it's okay with you, we're going to go ahead and take a look at accounts payable, take a look at accounts receivable, and see what we can do to explore navigating the cash flow crunch. Cash flow crunch is one that the vast majority of our businesses are experiencing, whether you're shut or whether you're open, whether you're partially open, whether you have some staff on site, some at home. This is a big pain point that I've heard. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and share that.
Go ahead and jump into the course content today. With the pandemic economy we're currently in, there are some temporary trends we need to point out that have drastically altered the way we do business. Those include stay-at-home orders, online transactions, curbside pickup and delivery, working and learning from home, and reopening guidelines from the government. There are also some trends that may stick, though. People may continue to stay home more. They may continue to shop online versus come to your restaurant, at least for a little while, even after the reopening guidelines are implemented. The Harris Poll recently conducted research on the estimated time it will take for Americans to return to their normal activities once restrictions are lifted. The results of that research are on your screen now. Take a look at the data. These lingering effects are exactly why it's important for small businesses to guard against insolvency, which typically causes a business to shut down for good. The first step is to measure and gauge the amount of working capital available. We will look at two concepts that need to be utilized: cash burn rate and break-even analysis. Cash burn rate scenarios focus on operating expenses, not cost of goods sold. So these are your monthly expenses, regardless of how much you sell, how little, how much, your monthly expenses. So the scenarios are if revenue goes to zero and we don't cut any expenses, we have enough cash to last how many months? On the other hand, if revenue goes to zero and we do cut expenses, we now have enough cash to last how many months? Another is if revenue drops 75% and we don't cut any expenses, we have enough cash to last how many months? If revenue drops to 75% and we cut expenses, we have enough cash for how many months? Next is break-even analysis, which determines how much revenue must be generated to cover all expenses. So cash burn only looked at operating expenses. For break-even, you have to start with sales and you factor in your variable cost. So let's say you sell Frisbees for $5 a piece, they cost you $1. Your variable cost is that $1 per Frisbee. You move on now to operating expenses. So your fixed monthly cost, like rent, insurance, utilities, salaries, those types of things. Those things are your fixed monthly cost, and you have to hopefully sell enough units and get the contribution margin from those units to cover your fixed cost. When you sell enough units, in my example, Frisbees, and you make $4 off of each one, when you sell enough of those to cover your fixed cost, to not make any money, but more importantly, to not lose any money, that's your break even. And that number is very important to know. Calculating and monitoring the cash burn rate and the break even analysis of your business is the best way to determine the risk of insolvency. The first step is to get organized. You can get organized using pen and paper, a spreadsheet, or hopefully your already established accounting system. The goal is to create an accurate listing of your receivables. Next, you'll want to prioritize those accounts. You can use filters in spreadsheets to sort by adding a few simple fields to help prioritize the accounts. Start by focusing on your biggest accounts, then go from newest accounts to oldest. It's well known that the longer an account is outstanding, the less likely you're going to be to collect any of that money. You can also organize them by risk of default. Finally, you've got to strategize how you're going to encourage them to pay. Get on the phone and talk to a real person. Get names and documents and contact information on your receivables. You may consider splitting invoices amongst future invoices for long-term clients. If you're not already accepting credit cards, start. You want to be able to call them up and say, I see that your bill is due today and we haven't received payment. I can take your payment right now over the phone if you'd like. Depending on the account, you could also consider offering a discount for them to settle part of the bill now. If you have the ability, you can even trade for future services if you have something you might need in the future. Be upbeat, friendly, positive. For accounts that you contact before the due date, consider giving them a small discount to pay early. For accounts after the due date, offer to set up payment plans so you can have some cash now. Allow for the pay what you can towards the balance of their bill. Or, as I mentioned earlier, trade out for services or goods you might actually need. Organize your payables into A, B, and C classes. This will indicate their priority level. A is going to be those accounts you absolutely have to pay, and so on down the line. It's important to note that you can use a lot of the strategies that you are using with your receivables for payables as well. To start, call them before they call you. You can also ask for adjusted due dates or a discount on paying the entire balance for those that you absolutely must pay now. Educate your vendors with some of the strategies you are using with your clients. Again, stay upbeat, positive, and cooperative. Now more than ever, it's critical to monitor and minimize the operating expenses of your business. Strategize by classifying operating expenses into 3 categories: necessary, important, and expendable. Next, prioritize the largest operating expenses as they have the most impact. Negotiate with your landlord, lenders, utility companies, vendors, and service providers for all necessary and important expenses. Consider suspending payment of all expendable expenses. While suspending services or contracts from longtime vendors, for example, a pest control service, may be a very difficult decision for a business owner to take, it may be the difference between the business surviving this pandemic or becoming insolvent. The lingering effects of COVID-19 on the economy make it crucial for small businesses to measure, engage their working capital, and reduce operating expenses.
So I just wanted to pause it there. I'm back. And I wanted to ask, now, there's a lot of it is common sense information, right? Pay what you can. If you can't pay, you try to negotiate or figure another way out. But can I just, I mean, a lot of that is not earth-shattering information, and Asian Inc. certainly doesn't have a monopoly on that kind of information. But I do think there are some things in there that may resonate with folks in their personal situations, and they don't have to just talk about that if they don't feel comfortable. But I wanted to ask our 2 business owners if there are things there that you felt, you know what, I hadn't thought of that specifically, but maybe that is something that I would consider doing. I would ask Tanya if you had any thoughts in response to the video, if you felt. I mean, if you don't have any, that's fine too. I can go to Numbia or others. And if in the chat, if you want to tell us in the chat or email us with your thoughts, we'll certainly read them. But Tanya, do you have any reaction to that?
So it's wonderful. Listen, what you guys are doing is fabulous. First time I'm being heard. Our own beauty industry is not, we just get calls, but nobody hearing us. And they're not standing strong for $70 billion industry to be everybody's work less. And we are We don't get paid if we don't work. So as I said, we minimize everything. We shut the doors. Everything is, I'm very, since in business since 1988, I know I am not a overspender. I'm already did all this stuff. So what my concern is now to modify the place, if we would get to open one day, someday, I don't know if we will be able to do that or not. If it's continue closed for another couple months, then I don't think we will pay our bills till this month. August, then we probably had to just throw the towel and say no. So my concern is trying to modify, to put dividers and spending money to modify. That thing is going to be a lot of cost for us, to putting divider in each station, each shampoo bowl. Means there's so much regulation they're putting. We already put that thermometer machine, which is on a wall. So you walk in, we're putting all this money for what? We don't even able to open our doors.
Understood. Tanya, one of the things that I want us to follow up on with you specifically, Rocio and Porter and others, is that there is, we talk about capital like loans and lines of credit, those kind of sources of capital. But I think there are sources of grants for businesses like yours that are trying to do the right thing, to be prepared and be, to stay within these regulations, to do, you say the dividers, the temperature checks, the PPE, all of that. So I actually want for us, our team at Asian Inc. and at the MBDA Business Center, to be able to follow up with you and others who want to have financial support to be able to pursue those measures. Now, those measures are things that you're doing in anticipation of being able to operate, you say even 1 day a week or 2 days a week. But I think it is our responsibility, if you're within our client pool, to be able to expend those resources and to identify those resources so that you can extend, push back the date that you say, oh, within 2 months, I don't think we can do it anymore. Or if we can push that to 3 months, so we can keep pushing that date back, that would mean your business would continue. So Numbia, I'd like to ask you, again, there are probably things in there you've already done, but can you just respond with what you think?
With permission, Tanya, can I say something, what I've done? One thing I could say with Asian Inc., I think with the help, because we're both in personal care services, and it is important, but what I found for salons, what we can do is now you strategize, and now we work with public health department. Salons, as you mentioned, deals with hygiene. So with the help of Asian Inc., you can help us connect with public health department. Therefore, somebody like Tanya can now, because she mentioned a key factor about people who can't cut their nails or their hair, that falls under hygiene. So Tanya, that relates to personal care services, hygiene, health. And then now I'm under disease prevention therapist. So you can connect from salon to just change it to disease prevention. You see what I'm saying? And now we pull those resources with the help of Asian Inc. I think we can do that because now you have public health department, right? And you're training and you're still doing the services, and then that falls us under outpatient care services. You see what I'm saying? So you still doing your salon, but now you just took it to another page. You just tapped it to another market where your doors can still be open, okay? And I'm saying that, and also as a client of Asian Inc., clients have been told, like, because I probably was able, clients, let's just say that if we're not able to give personal information, does that stop our services? Because I'm not sure, I really want to work with the personal care services, and we are the one, we're stage 4, Tanya and I. We are the last to be open. But I think if we can get that support, even using all these graphs and everything like that, to connect healthcare services, and that's what we are, to public health department and behavioral health, that would really level us up, and we're still in our field. You know what I'm saying? So it's outpatient care services, Tanya, that would help us, okay? And now I can show you how to set up the HSA account and the FSA accounts, and your clients will come and see you under that platform. because you're dealing with hygiene.
I appreciate this. I appreciate this exchange here. Yes, Tanya?
Thank you. I 100% agree with you. The sad part is the news is saying the salons are open, and then this county, that county, the news and the game they're playing, and we have never been opened. And people are calling us, oh, I heard the news. The news is same thing, saying something else, and we are not being misled. And all this drama, this should have stopped. I'm just so, it's so sad. The politicians should do their homework, and they should understand we are jeopardizing all these elderly's lives, and many people cannot groom themselves.
Right. So we can take those, what Numbia and what you're talking about, Tanya, we can take those and we can explore them. Obviously, Asian Inc. is, we operate not just our business development programs, we operate housing programs. We are in the San Francisco Bay Area communities of the South Bay, the East Bay, San Francisco proper, the peninsula. So there are relationships that can be brought to bear that can help our clients and their customers and their clients. So I want to just wrap this discussion up about cash flow by taking a look at, if you can cue up the next slide, Violet, just to recap what we heard in terms of cash flow, okay, in terms of what we can do to strategize that. So just to recap, the items on the bulleted list include measure, engage the amount of working capital using two strategies. So that's the cash burn rate and the break-even analysis. Now the break-even analysis is going to vary based on which cash burn rate scenario you utilize, whether that's based on cutting expenses, retaining revenue, assuming no revenue. Depending on those scenarios, you will have a different analysis of break-even. But it's important to know that breaking point, because you heard from Tanya, she's made kind of a, maybe perhaps a back of the envelope assumption, but perhaps, working with Asian Inc., working with the MBDA Business Center, working with others, perhaps we can take that horizon and move it back using other scenarios. Organizing, now they said, the gentleman said pen and paper. We hope that people are moving beyond pen and paper. I'm going to show you a tool that you could use instead of pen and paper. For folks who have QuickBooks or for folks who have other accounting systems, they would say, well, of course we're on QuickBooks. We don't need pen and paper. We don't need spreadsheets. But I don't want to assume, and I think it's important for our folks from the financial services industry to know that not everyone is going to be on QuickBooks. Not everyone can just whip out a P&L or a balance sheet. In fact, the experience of PPP has shown us that not everyone has all the information that everyone's looking for at the right time. But we hope that we can use spreadsheets to analyze accounts payable and accounts receivable. Now, in doing that, prioritizing using some kind of system. Now, on the payable side, the system was A, B, and C. Essential versus expendable. And other ways to prioritize receivables is the age. As the speaker said, the age of a receivable correlates to oftentimes the recoverability of that. But there has to be a way to prioritize, okay, both payables and receivables. Then strategizing how you're going to get the payment from those who owe you and how you negotiate with those whom you owe. And I owe as a person, our Asian Inc. owes as a business. It's a nonprofit business, but it's still a business. Doesn't pay income tax. All the net income goes back to the organization to move its mission. But we are also a corporate entity that happens to be tax exempt. So I am speaking from our experience of how we negotiate. I think it's so important that we have to sometimes ask before they ask us. And so I say, if they haven't gotten to you and you know you owe them, you have to approach them first, because that will be the difference between a discount, some kind of payment arrangement or not. I've found that to be, in our experience at Asian Inc., quite relevant. There are other aspects to managing cash flow, like operating income and other operating expenses. We can't address obviously everyone's situation here, but these are the items that we wanted to highlight on the managing cash flow video. Now I'm going to share another sheet that is very simple. That is a way to address payables. Now, as you can see, and I'm going to try to highlight with the cells here, if my computer responds. This is a template. This is a template that you can get at online at vertex42.com. They have different types of templates, but this is a way of prioritizing accounts payable. And it shows the aging summary. So 1 to 30 days out, 31 to 60 days. And when I say out, I mean past due, and 61 to 90 or beyond 90 days. Now, in this particular template, you can actually look at all customers, which you are looking at now, or you can look at a particular customer. So if you want to look at XYZ supply, you can only look at those ones that are outstanding. And in this case, it highlights the customer, the due date, and notice the due date's in red. And if you look in the aging summary, you can see what amount of the payables is between 61 and 90 days overdue and what's over 90 days overdue. In this particular case, on line 24, invoice 120 has been partially paid, but there's still an outstanding invoice from a month after that hasn't been paid at all. So then you see the 61 to 90 day aging is $700, and then the $50 is the outstanding beyond 90 days. We're not going to go into all of the ways you can look at payables, but this is one way to get a grasp of your payables if you feel like, you know, you have emails that say, oh, they owe me this, or I have a receipt for that. I encourage you to use a tool like this, and we can share this out, to be able to start prioritizing and start strategizing, especially the payables, but also these receivables. These are, in this case, these are receivables, and I should have made this clear. This is an accounts receivable invoice tracker, and this is where people are paying you or owe you. But you can use a similar template for accounts payable. Okay. So if we can advance the slide, Violet, I wanted to stop the screen share and stop it altogether. And I wanted to know if I wanted to ask Rocio if there are any questions that you have or any things that you wanted to add to that conversation that we just had regarding cash flow.
No, I think that was really helpful. You know, it's just so emotional, I think, for some clients to think about, you know, their profits and losses for the next few months because of the uncertainty, but it's a necessary step. And I know that looking at these charts and looking at everything can be a little overwhelming, but I think that's what we're all here for, is to look at everything with you together, and paint a picture fully for funders and for potential grants. So it's essential work, definitely.
So one of the comments that I can see here is, can a client still receive agenting services if they did not submit a document stating they received PPP funds? So we deliver, you go to asianinc.org/business and you can sign up to be a client of Asian Inc. We have, I just let you know, a lot of the clients we've been receiving right now have been clients seeking either Paycheck Protection Program loans or economic injury disaster loans, EIDLs. So the San Jose MBDA Business Center has assisted, goodness, with over 220 applications. And those applications have totaled over $12.5 million in funding requests. But to answer the question, you don't have to have sought PPP support. You don't have to have sought EIDL support. You can come to us seeking our support in getting that funding. Or maybe your question has nothing to do with PPP or EIDL. Maybe the question has to do with what Andrew Ha provided in the comments. If he wants to start a business, relocate an existing business, we can talk through those items too. We could spend hours talking about business planning. We could talk hours about capability statements. You know, David mentioned contracting. You know, there's this, you know, supplier diversity. Comerica has a supplier diversity program. We've interacted with Teresa Lefevre, and she runs a great program. So there's all these different things we can talk about, but you can have someone at Asian Inc. through our MBDA Business Center in San Jose or our project in the Central Valley in Fresno. We can help talk these issues through because we receive support, not just from folks like Comerica, but we receive support from the federal and state governments to be able to deliver that technical assistance, to talk these issues through, to provide assistance with access to capital, to provide assistance with access to contracts. In fact, the Minority Business Center, the MBDA Business Center based in San Jose, is measured by its ability to facilitate access to capital and access to contracts. I'm not going to tell you the many millions of dollars that are involved in those goals, but they're quite hefty. And San Jose MBDA does a great job of facilitating that. I want to respect folks' time. We've gone over managing cash flow. We've gone over some of the ways that people can look at changing business operations. I love that Numbia and Tanya were exchanging ideas and sentiments about how to, I mean, the word pivot, as you heard in the first video, we hear that all the time. But I think it's not just about pivoting, it's also about being very strategic and looking at the regulatory framework and seeing what you can do to fit in the regulatory framework at that time. These are issues that Asian Inc. and the MBDA Business Center in San Jose and the Fresno project as well can talk you through. If you have a question or a comment, you can email it to at bizsensebootcamp@asianinc.org. We're happy to answer your emails. We're happy to get you connected with the kind of support that you're looking for. I would ask Violet to advance to the last slide. And we've just talked about common COVID-19 pain points. We've gone over managing cash flow, but we're going to be talking about how to position yourself for capital and how we can help. Now, we did receive a comment in the chat about, or a question about how to get, you know, credit score, how to access the capital that's available. I would say that this is not just going to be a PPP loan forgiveness kind of session, because there are fine PPP loan forgiveness sessions that are already available out there that you can watch. But I think the question here for July 14th is, how can we make it position you? How can we take the current situation and get you in a place where you can be in line to get capital in another way, not just through PPP, but through other programs. For instance, banks, CDFIs, non-bank CDFIs, other lenders, they have programs, and we want to help you get positioned for those. On July 21st, the following Tuesday, we're talking about small business credit score and what you can do to improve, or to, some folks don't have a small business credit score, so you would have to establish it. But for those who have it, we'll show you how to check it, and we'll show you how to enhance it through the kind of measurable behaviors that the bureaus can measure. And we have a guest. And this is real, because I don't know how my kids have stayed out of this, because I'm in their room. I'm surprised they haven't just barged in here, okay? So I thank God for that. In the last session, we'll be talking about small business reputation, because it does affect how people will be doing business with you post-COVID, in terms of whether people paid or whether you paid others. That all figures into small business reputation. So we will be talking about that in our last session. I would give it to, I don't know if anyone has any comments or any last thoughts that they would like to share with us. Anyone at all? Mr. Morgan Rector, would you like to share any parting words?
Well, it's just been a really kind of interesting, positive video today. It's interesting to hear, you know, I don't often get to hear real live on the ground comments like I'm hearing in this. So I think that's great for me to kind of get some of that experience in. But yeah, you know, we want to be as supportive as we can. If you need anything else, you know, you just reach out to me and let me know. Thanks.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I would say that, you know, while David and Sonia, and it's great to have you here, we do really value the business banking specialists who are on the ground in our area, and they're great resources too. They're folks who have been with your institution for years, and that speaks a lot about the relationship they have with their employers. So we like to work with people who feel good about their employers, and it's great to have you and David and Sonia and others with us. I want to thank Numbia. I want to thank Tanya, two business owners who are trying to stay afloat here. I want to thank Rocio for doing great work too, and as well as the other folks associated with Asian Inc. through the MBDA Business Center based in San Jose. But that business center has great reach. It reaches well beyond the Bay Area, reaches throughout the state and even outside of California. So please do email us at bizsensebootcamp@asianinc.org. Again, my name is Lamar Heistek. I'm president of Asian Inc. And this is my first webinar. I have not actually hosted one. So if you have any comments about that, email me and I'll respond. But we're happy to do it again. I'm happy to be involved as well. And I thank you all for being here today.
Just,
so let's send it.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful. It's fabulous. Really great. And I'm so glad I have a support here. I just got a text saying, good news, state is allowing Santa Clara County to allow salons to open. Seems like need to file some paperwork with the county.
Oh, they sent that because while we were doing the video, I was writing an email to supervisors in Santa Clara County. So you're welcome. I'm just kidding. I wasn't doing that, but I did. We're very happy that you got. That's great. That means you're in business. Well, we'll help with the paperwork. How about that?
I'd love to connect with everyone. If I'm easy to find, and if Porter has all my information, if you want, I don't mind putting my number and my email to everybody, because this is like really a nice group. This is very genuine. What we're talking about. I really felt like I've been heard, and finally there will be a resolution, and we can go back to work. I just don't want to keep paying my corporation all this rent. I don't want to take a loan to pay them and then close my doors.
We will enlarge this group to make sure there are more faces and more stories and more folks who can access this platform. But thank you, Tanya, for seeing in us a resource, and we see in you a great future. So with that, we're going to end our webinar, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Lamar.
Lamar.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Porter,
everyone.
Rocio.